One. Well, good morning, good evening, or good night, depending on where you are in the world today. And we actually have quite a shift in time zones. Kay being in the late evening, all the way over in New Zealand, and myself just starting my day all the way in Cape Town, South Africa. So, Kay, thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us on this interview.
Thank you, Stephen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. Okay, so Kay, very exciting to get into our discussions with you today. And you work in a very interesting field, I must note, in New Zealand itself. But before we dive into that, maybe you could tell us a bit about your background and what actually brought you to this point in your life where you wanted to do this kind of work to help those around you, specifically youth.
Yes, well, it started for me when I got chronic fatigue. I was a single mother with 4 children,
Mm,
burning the candle at both ends and working, partying. And then I ended up with chronic fatigue. So I spent 2 years at going to hospitals, seeing specialists, and they couldn't do anything for me. So they said, take these pills and join the chronic fatigue club. So that didn't sound like a great future. So I thought
no.
I'll give alternative healing a try. So I started going to alternative healers, trying different things. And I started doing sort of different uh, healing.
Hmm.
And one day while I was working with a woman, I started getting pictures in my mind, which was really unusual, or
Mm.
unusual that they were so clear. And I saw a little Bambi. So I was massaging, I was guided to massage uh, that person's hands and feet. So as I did that, I started getting pictures. The first picture I got was of a little Bambi quivering under a bush. And as I massaged, the Bambi got stronger and stronger. And so I was actually massaging her foot. And I kind of threw the foot down. And luckily, I knew this woman well, and she was an experienced healer. And I told her what I'd been seeing, and she understood that perfectly. She understood what it meant for her in her healing.
Mm.
And it was something that she had been wanting to heal for a very long time. So we worked with that very quickly and resolved that issue for her very quickly. So I just kept doing that. I kept massaging people's hands and feet. I kept getting pictures, and what I found was each hand and foot held another, held a different energy field. So I started
Mm.
taking notice of what these fields were producing, and so I was finding the inner child like an earth male energy and different fields and different parts of us, which on different levels represented different things. So
Mm.
if we were looking to heal our inner child, which you hear a lot about, it's not good just to heal the child. We must heal the family within us, if you like. So it's no
Yes.
good taking a child out of a dysfunctional home,
Hmm.
healing that child, and then sending it back to a dysfunctional home. So that was what I found with the energy fields, that they each support each other, that we need to work on those in alignment. So I go around the field, I go around the body to see what's happening with each field, and then I work on um, bringing those into alignment. And so it's just one of those things that I keep doing, and I love what I'm doing. So it's absolutely fascinating to work with people and to see what's going on with them. So everybody's.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Yeah. I am really resonating with what you're saying there, Kay, because, and obviously I know a bit about the topics that we're going to be discussing today, but the work that you're doing just seems so pertinent, especially for here and now, because as a collective, we are so out of balance. As I say so often to my clients, the reason for that is because we're so distracted by the world around us. Your energy is constantly trying to fight off these attacks and distractions that are pulling you in a myriad different directions. And we often can't even see the wood for the trees until, we go and see someone like yourself, who is then able to tap into our energies and show us what needs healing and where. So that's really beautiful work that I believe that you're doing. But Kay, maybe you could tell us a bit more about the actual work and how it is that you operate. Because we were talking about, before the call started, energy fields and imbalances within them. And then, of course, around the male and female as well.
Yes.
Again, something that I think is really important in the day and age in which we live in. But maybe you could tell us a bit more about that.
Well, so I'll show you like a rough diagram. So within each of us, we have, now I've just got to try to get this back to front.
So, there we go. Yes. Perfect. Right.
Oh, no, I've lost it again. There we go.
There we go. Yes.
So we all have these aspects in us, but now these are on the web, on my website. This one you can download on the website. So I'll just put that away. What I want to show you with those same fields, what happens with men and women is, if you like, social programming. So we have the energy fields like this, and they belong in all of us. All of us have these fields. But what happens is we're programmed as male and female. Oh gosh.
Yes.
More where boys are programmed into that earth male field, and girls are programmed more into that earth female field. So we're expected to be certain behaviours, and so there's a lot of social conditioning into what we're doing, not only in social personally, but what I found is we're doing this on a global level as well. So what I started seeing in people, I started to see globally, and so we're primarily functioning under an earth male energy system, which means we're functioning, where are we, from those earth male aspects, rather than these earth female aspects, which are very different programs. What I find now is we're actually moving energy fields. There's a great shift, a great paradigm happening with these fields. So on a global level, we have this sort of thing, and again, this is on my website. But so what's happening? We've had Western programming, so that fundamentally leaders of religion, business, politics are working from an earth male energy field. They're male dominated, and we see this with pay, with human rights. So it's very complicated and very involved. So, but what's happening, I'm finding, is we're moving into that earth female energy field, where women are rising, leadership, Indigenous people, which are more in the earth female energy field. So we're looking at the environment, and so those all come under that earth female energy field. So this is, I think, the big rift right now is changing from that earth male energy field to that earth female energy field. So there's nothing to be afraid of. It's just this huge shift we're going through. So it's massive, and it's upsetting a lot of the systems we have now, because it's changing so rapidly, and so it's very hard for people. It's a huge shift.
I definitely am seeing that as well, not just with my clients, but in my friend circle and just in my work in general. I come across a lot of people whether they are male or female or identify as anything in between, there's a lot of fear around the shift
Yes,
because whilst it's welcome in a lot of places, it's still an unknown. It's still,
absolutely.
something that we haven't experienced in several millennia. And I think that is causing a lot of people to go, well, what does this mean for me? Where do I fit into this new paradigm? Because
Mm,
before it was very, your role was very defined,
absolutely,
whereas now everything's a lot more fluid, a lot more. There's a lot more moving parts to the
absolutely.
world society.
Yes,
Um, are you seeing a lot of that in your work with your clients in terms of
yes,
how they're coping?
absolutely. And I'm seeing this a lot with male suicide. Like many years ago, I started seeing like older men would come in and we'd go back
Hmm.
2 times of puberty, and where there was huge shift for them, a huge disruption for
Mm,
males. And so this was quite, I wouldn't say common, but it came up regularly. And this is what I'm finding now with male suicide, that
really?
boys are, younger boys are embracing their female energy,
Hmm.
and they're okay with it. They're moving. Most boys are moving with the times, so a lot of them, not
Yeah.
all, but there's still that paradigm of be a man, man up,
Hmm.
and don't be a girl. So there's a huge conflict. There's still a huge conflict around kind of what this new man is and what the old system that they're
Right.
kind of still having to fit into. And many of the systems that are breaking down now with sexual abuse and historic sexual abuse, so which was regular. That was just part of
Yes.
the business. So in those
Because
days,
unfortunately, sex was weaponized in most
yes,
instances.
yes, that's right. And you had power systems in the workplace,
Mm.
which are still exploding all over the place now. We've just had a media company in New Zealand come up. They did their own survey. We just had a girls' school do their own survey of young girls who are still being sexually harassed on the way to school. So it still exists very rotten in our society,
For sure.
and it's quite global. It's not localized.
It definitely is. And I also see that when I take a step back and look at the global energy, the energy of the collective, and then I look back in time, because often the discussion that I have with people who are maybe not as what's what I'm looking for, interested
Yes,
in moving with the times and adjusting to paradigm shifts, they'll sometimes go, but it's attack on our culture, it's an attack on who
yes,
we are, and men should be men, and all the rest of it. And I get that
yes,
a lot from women as well. And I
yes,
say, but I think that our idea as to what the masculine is and should be has been so
yes,
warped, because when you look back at history, the strong masculine archetypes were very much what the new masculine archetype is looking to create, which is a safe space, safe haven for women to express themselves. And that is what men were always, that was the role that they had to fulfill as they were embracing their own feminine inside them. But we've seen over the last couple of centuries, maybe even millennia, that has become warped and shifted into this, I want to say, wounded and unhealed masculine trait of dominance instead of protectiveness.
yes,
And that, I think, is what is definitely starting to shift and change. But as you say, it does then lead to people not quite knowing their role. And correct me if I'm wrong, but because this is just my take on it, I think when that happens, you lose your sense of self identity. If the world shifts around you and you are no longer who you used to be and you don't know who you're going to be,
yes,
is there even a place for you in this world? And I imagine that that is quite possibly why we are seeing a rise in male suicide rates.
Yes, yes, it's really tragic. So
Mm.
essentially, you know, we're not saying give up being a man.
No.
It's about expanding more. It's about being what that man was, but adding to that. If you look at where are we? If you look at these aspects, it's adding compassion to manliness, and it's becoming more. So it was safe for women to
Mm.
move into an earth male energy field, take on business, and do the jobs men were doing. And interestingly enough, it just springs to mind in the 70s in Russia, when women became doctors, many women moved into medicine. But when they did that, men lost their status. So there's a lot of what men do has status. When women do
Mm.
same things, it loses its status. So, so
Interesting.
then men went more into physics. They left the medical profession, and that sort of became a woman's role more so than it had been.
Huh.
And men went into physics and science. Um, and the opposite happens when men go into cooking. They're not cooks, they're chefs, so it raises the status of the kitchen. So there's very much a lot around status with that. And
Mm.
so generally, men lose status when they do women's work. Um, so yeah, it's very interesting.
Very interesting indeed. And I actually, because I can't remember where I heard this, and I think it might have been in a fictional TV show, so please everybody forgive me for maybe not quoting fact, but there was something that said that in the olden days, and I'm talking now in sort of the dark ages and before, um, women who were midwives were often accused of being witches simply because men were now coming into the medical profession and they wanted to be the ones who were delivering children. So
Yes,
automatically, midwives who had been, you know, the um, the bedrock of the next stage in a family's life were being cast out and not just shunned, but in many times often killed as well for practicing
absolutely.
something that is a beautiful art and beautiful part of family life. So I definitely do hear what you're saying and resonate with that about that status and the loss of it when
Yes,
women are, yeah.
yes, and I think that's where I was heading before. We women have gone into men's fields, into that earth male energy field, where now we need people to come into the earth female field, because what
Mm,
happens there when we come into these earth female fields, what happens is it raises us so into the spiritual female field, which is where woman's true power is. It is in the spiritual female field, and that's where these women who are burned as witches, excuse me, they had very powerful spiritual female male fields. Sorry.
mhm.
Um, So women lost their power through that. That's why women had to be controlled, because that's where the real power lay, spiritual power. And as women were strengthened, they were able to care for the child, the inner child, and the child.
Mm,
And so what we have now, but churches took that over.
right.
Religion, the hierarchical powers took that over. And also, so then you have a corruption with male energy and the child. This is why we have so
Mm,
much child abuse, because they're going, that male energy is going directly to the child rather than coming through the nourishing fields of the female energy. So it's a bit complicated, but
no, that
this is
actually
where,
that
as
makes
we
perfect sense.
Yeah, as we raise through these earth female fields, we will start getting to our true power. So we're heading
Mm.
to much more power, self-empowerment, rather than power outside of ourselves. And so again, with this spiritual male energy,
Mm-hmm.
you often see that the sun god, that male golden child. But this is the child in all of us. But we can't get to that until we come through these female fields, using the female energies, because that is what nourishes that aspect of us. Our divine consciousness is managed here through these
Right.
spiritual male and female fields. And so that's where the power is going.
Mm.
We're raising consciousness as we come out of that earth male field more and move into the female field. So it's not it's only disempowering those who would be at the top, you know.
Right.
Yeah,
And
so
instead just distributing power amongst the collective as opposed to keeping it bottled up in one
yes,
place.
yes.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But now tell us, Kay, how do you work with your clients? Do you work in groups, one-on-one? What does that look like? And what does an average session entail for a client?
Um, well, I prefer not to know anything about people, and I usually get them to fill in a form why they've come, which I don't
Mm-hmm.
look at. I then I massage their hands and feet, and I tell them what I'm seeing, and then we look at what they've written. So that's just for the first session. Sessions after that, obviously, I know why people are coming,
Yes,
but it's more to give people confidence. That what I'm seeing is relevant
is
to them.
yes.
Um, and it's usually very accurate. Sometimes people don't know what I'm talking about. um, but, that they generally open up a bit because something usually comes up.
Mm,
And yeah, so that moves energy. It's also about a client having awareness of themselves also. So we can't just change our life if we're not involved and engaged in the work that we're doing, in the healing.
absolutely,
So it's a
absolutely.
partnership. It's not about getting people to come back. I I am working on people on their self
Right.
empowerment rather than being a dependent person coming for healing. So there's an expectation of people having some awareness around what
Mm,
you're doing and what they can do um, when they leave. That's going to
mhm.
be helpful to them to empower and to grow what we've just worked with, and bring more
Right.
awareness
Yeah,
within
yeah.
themselves. Yeah,
Oh, beautiful. Well, that definitely does sound like an amazing way to, what's what I'm looking for? To help someone find a breakthrough quickly and easy, because as you say, it's that shifting of energy
yeah,
within them. So they're able to heal whatever it is that they need healing. So that is just beautiful. If
yes.
people want to get in touch with you to work with you, how should they go about doing that, Kay?
Well, if they go through the peacethroughcompassion.net website, there's a bookings page under my contacts page, so they can come through there. And
Fantastic, fantastic.
yeah, so what I realise is that things are getting better. It's like cracking that pot open, and things are really
Yeah,
tough, but we are working to a better system, better world, and
for sure.
so
I could
so
not agree
be
with you more on
hopeful.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's very hard to find some good news at the moment.
I
Um,
tell you, but as the saying goes, it's always darkest before the dawn.
Absolutely, and
So I think we're on the cusp of a new. I think it will be a little bit trying still for a while,
still for
but
a while.
I do
Mm,
see that things are going to start getting better in the near-ish future. So that we're
yes,
looking forward to that for
eventually we
sure.
are going
Yes. Yeah.
there.
Well, for our listeners who maybe are not aware, for those catching the replay, you can, of course, catch Kay on Saturday, the 14th of August. And she will be a speaker at the Wellness Lifestyle Conference. And we thank you very much, Kay, for taking time out to be there
Thank
with
you so
us.
much. Thank
And
you so
also for
much.
taking, no, of course, of course. And for taking time out to do an interview with me here today. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it too, Stephen. Thank you.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. This has been such an enlightening discussion and really beautiful way to start my day, actually. So thank you for
Oh,
that.
lovely. Yeah.
And as always, anybody listening, all of Kay's contact details can be found in the description below this video, or on Facebook or on LinkedIn as well. So please do get in touch with Kay as soon as possible. Kay, thank you for your time with us here today, and we look forward to having you again soon.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thank you. Have a
Bye.
great evening further. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.